Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. You've probably heard that we had a mock shooting on campus, and let me stress the word mock. The exercise involved the Paducah Police Department, the Paducah Fire Department, the McCracken County Sheriff's Department, ambulance crews, as well as folks here on campus. Today we have three of our campus participants in this who are going to tell us a little bit about how they functioned in this exercise. They are Steve Orazine, our Director of Security, Matt Curtis, who I must say has recovered nicely from a terrible, terrible wound inflicted on his neck by our third guest, Constance Frank, Professor of Theater. Constance, Matt, Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Let's lead off with Steve. First, tell us why this was done, and then if you can, tell us how it went, in your opinion.
The main reason it was done is because the way things go in this country, it's something that's needed. Since 1996, we've had 46 school shootings in this country. There have been a little over 150 people killed and a little over 200 wounded.
And of course, one of the most famous, one of the most tragic was right down the road from us at Heath.
Yes, and that was a little personal because my daughter was in that prayer group.
Wow.
That's why I take these school shootings serious. And besides the ones that got killed and the ones that got wounded, the untold number that are traumatized by the event. So it was something that was needed. It was asked for, and I set about the planning.
So can you give us a little bit of an assessment of how it went in your view?
I think it went well. It's a starting point. You know, it's not a situation where the mock drill ended and we quit. You know, from here, we're going to sit down and have meetings on what we did right, what we did wrong. We're going to use it as a stepping stone to learn how to correct things in the future, how to be more prepared.
And Constance, you played a big role in this. In fact, we do have some photographs, if I may show these, if I can operate this gizmo here. Here we have Constance inflicting a rather terrible wound on this young lady. Tell us the various materials you used in making this look maybe too real for some people.
Well, there certainly wasn't real, and I used some things I used were very ordinary. She has an abdomen wound there, and her intestines, I used some blue Play-Doh that I rolled into a rope, and I covered with saran wrap, made sure that stayed on tight with some clear tape, and then I had put fake blood on the inside of that, which is just, the fake blood is just corn syrup, basically, and red food coloring. But it looks very real.
Did you mix it up yourself?
I mixed some stuff up, but I also bought some. It was easier.
You know, I read years ago that in the movie Psycho, the famous scene in the shower, that they used a dark Carol syrup for that. That it was black and white, and it looked like blood.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
And that's what you do, you know, and it's cheap and it's easy. And although I think that the ants were after it when she was lying on the ground for so long, but and then I just, you know, I covered that with blood. And there's also now you can make out of either latex or plasticine or what we call derma wax. You can
derma
make
as in skin.
Derma as in skin, and so it's sort of a fake skin that's like a putty, and you roll that out and flatten it, and then you glue that with spirit gum, which can only be removed with spirit gum remover. It's pretty hard to get out. And you kind of glue that to them, and then you can make scrape marks in that stuff, and then you add the makeup that looks like all the different colors that bruises are, and blood at different points once it hits the oxygen, right, and it also starts to clot. So I had different types of blood, because one was called fresh scab, and it's just like it kind of looks like jam. I think you were saying it looked like jam. And that helped a lot having that, because they had to have wounds that were already ready with blood on it, and then they added more blood from little squirt tubes. And the girl in the hallway had a big plastic bag of blood that she just let it go.
She did, and we have a photograph that we'll show in a moment.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here in this magic. Ah,
Oh no.
Yeah.
here
that's
is
a-
Matt, who was rather severely wounded.
With a big smile on my face
With a big
at that
smile,
point anyway,
probably
before we started
That's
the exercise.
probably not realistic.
No,
but,
not that
but
point.
In any event, so but you did make a remarkable recovery. I don't see absolutely.
We've
even
got
a
wonderful
scar.
health services here in town,
Obviously,
so I have
obviously
to
do.
thank them.
So what motivated you to participate in this as a victim?
Well, for one, I'm an actor, and it looked like a good opportunity to practice some acting skills. And for two, this is a very serious thing, and I believe that these kinds of exercises need to be done to prevent other things like what happened here in town, 96, 97 at Heath. And I was very, very happy to be able to be a part of that, to help in the form of one of my peers, a student, because they're generally, in large proportion, the victims of
Right.
crimes like this.
Right. Right. Well, did you rehearse for falling dead or?
No,
anything?
really, what I did when I was in the gym, I told myself, just kind of relax in there. Bear in mind what's going to happen and prepare yourself when you go out those doors to be the victim. The actress who played my girlfriend, it was her first time ever acting, and she approached me and said, what do I do? What do I need to do? And I said, when I walk out the door, I'm going to be your boyfriend. From there, just flow into
She did
it.
a very good job.
And she did. She
And,
was
and her
brilliant.
name is
Sarah Ewing.
Sarah
Yeah.
Ewing, and she is a nursing student.
Yes.
Maybe you need to sign her up for an
Yeah,
acting
oh,
class.
yeah, I'm
Please.
after.
You really should. I mean,
She
yeah,
did
I
a
mean,
good
the star
job.
is born,
Yeah.
perhaps.
She
on
did
that,
a good
so.
job.
Well, let's see what else we have here on this magic thing. Here is the moment of death, quote unquote, Matt and Sarah being hit by the shooter. And Steve, the weapon he has in his hand is a,
It's a 38 caliber snub-nose revolver shooting blanks.
and that's basically that's a police weapon.
Yes.
Sort of the old days.
For the old days,
Yeah,
yes.
so. Now, tell us who the shooter is.
The shooter is Rob Estes, who is the training officer and chief firearms instructor for the police department.
And we'll just move along. Let's see what else we have. The SWAT team, yes. So tell us how you set up the idea of the shooter. We had two shooters,
We
a
had
male
two
and a
shooters.
female. Obviously, Mr. Estes is a police officer.
Yes.
And the woman is also a police.
She is a clerk at the
is a
police
clerk.
department.
So did they volunteer? Did you draft them? I
No,
mean,
they volunteered.
And
And it was, I was tickled when I found out that the girl was going to be a shooter, because one of the things I told her to do was, once she went in the building, knock on doors, help let me in, I'm locked out, and to see how many people would let her in, because I knew that they would not let a male in. I wanted to see if they would let a female in the room, and she did not get in.
Now, to set this up, he walked across the quadrangle just like, in fact, he was drinking a Dr. Pepper, very casual.
very casual.
You would see this
Anywhere.
anywhere, anytime on campus. And what I thought was interesting was the woman was hiding behind a tree over by the amphitheater, and I don't think anybody saw her right away.
No.
Your focus was on the other.
The focus was on him. He was casual. He would walk around shooting people. When the officer in the police car pulled up, his attention was on Rob Estes,
Right.
and then she shot him from the tree grove.
Now, another interesting wrinkle to this, which I discovered later was not part of the show, was the 4 kids sitting at the table in the middle of this. Now, when the thing started, we were, of course, back behind the officers, and I recognized 2 of these kids as my students, and I thought, why are they there? I mean, this is right in the middle of the action. So, how did they wind up being where they were?
When I first saw him, I wasn't too concerned, because I had scoped the situation out a couple of Wednesdays ago, and at 10:30 in the morning, there were 24 students sitting around.
Oh yeah, that's
So
prime time. Yeah.
That's what I was expecting. And then when I looked out there at the thing started, and there were 4 of them, I didn't get too concerned about it until the shooting started, and they just sat there. Well, come to find out, my shooters I hid them in the student center, so the SWAT team would not know who they were going after. And when the shooting started, when they were in the student center, Rob Estes just asked them, said, would y'all like to watch this thing? And they said yes. So they went over and sat down at the table, and they were watching.
They were?
Yes, and they thought everything was fine until the SWAT team showed up
Yes.
with the assault weapons and put them on the ground, and then they realized, hey, we're part of this,
Right, right.
and they were quite nervous.
They were indeed. In fact, one kid, though, told me after, he says, I'm definitely going to put this on my Facebook. So I suppose if you know who he is, you can get the Facebook. But I thought that was an interesting wrinkle, because I thought they're not supposed to be there, I mean, from what I had gathered. But anyway.
Well, we were concerned about, a bunch of students sitting there, and when the shooting started, have the deer in the headlight syndrome, and just, either that or grab their cell phones and start taking pictures. And of course, none of that happened.
Right.
But yeah, I was surprised to see those 4 boys just sit there.
Right, right. The next photo we have is of the SWAT team itself, and these, of course, what struck me is that very military-style uniform: helmets, assault weapons, fatigue, or not? That's an old Army term. What they got? BDUs now.
BDUs, yes.
Camouflaged, and that was so. In a real situation, I'm assuming that these guys that are on the Paducah Police SWAT team don't sit around in this battle gear all the time.
No, they are regular patrolmen. Most of them. There's a couple of them that are detectives, but they just.
So in the event of a real shooting, they would be called in from
Yes.
wherever they are and get dressed. And so how long would that take in reality?
In our timeline, they were already on campus. In reality, from initial call out to a response within the city, you're looking probably at least an hour.
How many members of the SWAT team are there? Do you know?
About a dozen.
About a dozen. So let's say, for example, that 3 of them are on vacation, so they would just go with what they could.
You go with what you got.
Go with what you got. It would be very extemporaneous. Yeah. Okay.
But this just happened to be on their normal training day, so they were all together. What you may have in a real situation is some of them may be on duty, and they're called, make the initial call to the problem, so they're in their regular uniform. But they
would they then bring the equipment to them?
They would not the BDUs, but their equipment. Yes,
they had a shield.
Yes.
Is that shield bulletproof?
Yes.
Wow.
Bullet resistant.
Ah, right, bullet resistant. So, and of course they had bullet resistant vests. Is that a better word for it?
Yes.
Than that, and of course the helmet. Those are regular
Kevlar helmets.
Army
Yes.
helmets. That are, yeah. Let's move along here, and here we have them going into the bottom floor at Rosenthal, and you can see one of the victims. And now, Constance, did you set this up? This victim?
Yeah, I did. She's the one that I put a wound on her, but she also had a bag of blood that once she fell, that she poured out.
Well, it was
Made a nice huge puddle. Yeah.
Yes, there we are. For
Yeah.
the squeamish, you'd better turn your head on this one. This is extremely realistic, and that she has is that a neck wound with her too?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, now is she one of your students?
No, she's another one that's not one of my students. She
Right.
came.
Do you know her name by any chance?
Christian
That's
Wagner.
Christian. Yeah.
Wagner.
Yeah.
Okay. So she has her moments of fame, 15 minutes
Yes.
of fame, I guess. So anyway, well now, did you school the victims into now lie there and don't giggle, don't laugh, don't get on your cell phone, don't text message when you're dead? Did you tell them about all that?
I did very little with that. I mean, the 2 that I had in the theater already know that, not to do that.
Right.
But I thought they were very attentive to what they were supposed to be doing and listened to the instructions that Stephen gave them, and they just did a good job.
So Steve, you told them to take this seriously and
Yes.
Yeah, they just
And,
took it seriously. So.
I explained to them that when you're wounded there, if there's nobody around, you don't have to moan and groan. But if somebody other than the people in the yellow vest approach you, then you're in pain and act realistic.
Now, the one thing that, and we'll show a video in a few moments about this, is when this thing begins, a police officer arrives, gets out of his cruiser, and he's shot, and he falls to the ground, and the SWAT team comes up, and he is begging the SWAT team to help him. and they don't. Now, tell us how that works.
The police officer being shot he's just another victim. Although he is their friend, you know, and the camaraderie is there, but once you go down, you're just another victim, and the SWAT team is trained to go to the threat. They will bypass all wounded victims and neutralize the threat, and then we have a safe area to go back and treat the victims.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was particular poignant part of this is when this man is moaning very, very piteously, "Please help me." He says, I'm your brother. And that's got to be hard on guys to just not say, "To heck with this, I'm going to help him," and keep going. That's part of their training?
It is, yes. Yeah, and it is harder to pass a brother than somebody you don't know. But the one thing we learned when I was at the police department years ago is you react the way you train. And that's how they're trained, you know. So when it really happens, it's just instinct, and you just do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Moving on past, here we have again the SWAT team. Now you said the weapon. This is a military weapon.
It's a M4 carbine,
which is a cut down version of an M16.
Yes.
Very realistic, I think. And we'll move on to another one. And
now the orange thing sticking out the side of that weapon is not part of the weapon. It's what's called a chamber block. You pull the bolt back, you put that in there, so anybody can look at that weapon and tell it's not loaded.
Right. And now the glasses, is that to cut down the glare you can get a better shot?
No, that's
just safety glasses.
Safety glasses for eye protection.
Okay. And the next photo we have is the SWAT team going up the steps. And so they, at this point, now the shooter, he entered on the lower level, didn't he?
Yes, they both entered on the lower level.
Lower level, and so then what they have done is, chase him down the hall, or what happened? I didn't see that part.
They just slowly progressed down the hall because at that time he was not shooting at him, so he'd gone to ground. So they were checking rooms.
And so when they couldn't find him, they went upstairs, and that's where they finished him off.
Yes.
Upstairs. Yes. As well. And that's all the photo. We're going to show here a video which was taken by Dan Shepard of our staff, which I think is very good. Mm-hmm. And we'll just let the cameras roll, and if you want to jump in and make comments, we'll do that. So roll camera.
Well, that's me with my the actress playing
it's
my
10:30.
girlfriend.
You can see the date on that.
Yes.
Now I noticed he didn't shoot directly at them. That's
a blank still sends out a projectile.
I thought it did. It could sting.
Yeah.
Right. And here are 4 unsuspecting students just thinking, what are we into here?
It's frightening watching this right now.
Now this situation right here,
he would have his weapon out.
He would not even be there. He would have not pulled up that close. He did this for the mock drill.
Right.
But the thing about Rob walking around shooting and casual as he is, that's the way it happens.
It seemed real. I mean,
they don't, they don't get. If you've ever seen the security tape from Columbine, they just walked around the school, just walked in a room and shoot a couple of people and walk on to another room, or the library and the cafeteria.
All of us actors and actresses, we weren't aware of who was playing the shooter. So once we were on that hill, the girl playing my girlfriend, we were just sitting there, casually talking, and then looking out, and this guy comes across the campus. We don't know who it's going to be, and that's when it happens. Very real. I mean, very, very, very frightening.
Where, Justin?
Real.
Justin, where?
I tried to keep a lot of secrets from different people. I didn't want the SWAT team to know who the shooters were. Didn't want the victims to know who the shooters were.
Now that's the part that struck me. He's I'm a brother.
Hands up!
Of course, any victim like that is going to be begging for help.
course.
Yeah. But when it's a brother, it's a little harder.
And we're under that hill, where they were looking in that last scene.
Cover on them. And once they clear that, we're going to sweep out to the left and clear this first. Okay.
I had a graze wound on my right calf and one straight through the right side of my neck.
Watch our rear security, Woody. Woody, you got rear security?
And I think you talked to me, Matt, about how realistic it was for you that you were actually feeling
Oh yeah.
frightened and
After it was over, I really, I mean, it was like shock. I mean, either from the breathing and just the experience. And that's when they're moving in towards us. We're on the other side of that hill on the bottom side. And that's her. She has her hands above. I'm down on the ground under her.
But we actually had an additional victim that we did not plan on, because at the far end of Rosenthal, there's a girl laying on the ground,
Yeah.
and another girl came up to her, bent over, and says, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And of course, the victim says, "You need to leave. You need to leave." And she says, "I can't leave you. You're wounded." And Rob walked over and fired a couple of shots. And says, "Now you're shot." And she laid down and played
Wow.
victim.
I didn't know that.
But she wasn't going to leave the injured girl.
Wow.
Another real.
Yeah.
All right, we got cover. Ready? Are you ready?
This would have to be a very frightening moment when you go through the door not knowing what to expect.
It is. Yeah, I used to be on the SWAT team.
Come in behind. Come take down the hall. Come take down the hall.
But that's exactly why they train, I think, every other Wednesday. So, you know,
Hey guys, move
when the anxiety starts, they're just acting on instinct.
Come out! We got contact.
Now it's 11:17, so they've been at this
Listen up.
a little 45
Clear
minutes.
this room. Delta team. We're up there, Doc. Hey, go. Take rear. Take rear. Edwards, take rear. Got it, got it, got it, got it. Go, go, go. Hands. Let's see hands.
I did notice they were coming out of a room. They said one's coming out, two coming out, so they would let their
Yes.
buddies know.
Yeah, they each have a number. There was some confusion with the SWAT team when they went in the building. What we had discussed was that I wanted them to check every room. They'd go in the room and they had a master key, so we didn't have to use explosives to blow the doors open. And but they would go in yelling, you know, "Show me your hands," and search the room, each room for the shooter, because there are basically two types of assaults. You know, if the shooter has gone to ground, you make a methodical search, which is what we wanted. If the shooter is still active and still firing, you go to the shooter and bypass everything else. And there was some confusion there because they checked rooms that weren't locked and they found nobody there. And if the door was locked, they just bypassed it instead of going in. So there was a little confusion.
So
there.
well, let's say in a real situation, if you were in a classroom like that and the police pounded on the door and said, "Open up and let us in," what should the people inside do?
Right, what they're doing. They do not open the door. If the police department don't have a key, or I mean, because anybody could be out there saying the police department.
Well, that's what I was
So,
thinking.
yeah, they will make their own entry into the room. If they can't make an entry, they don't need to be in.
At what point do we do as students, would we, you know, I mean, I guess if they came into the room, I wouldn't want to have my hands up knowing that there was a shooting.
They
Just
will
when
be-
they come and get you and grab you, just
No,
let
yeah,
the...
they will be
go
very
to-
loud. You know, show me your hands, and that's exactly what you do.
Just doing.
And then they will make a determination after they have decided there are no threats. They will make it a determination there, because they can either evacuate, like if there's down a hallway, you can evacuate behind them that they've already cleared, or they can continue to have you locked down in the room.
One of the things is some of the faculty, we discussed this, and the staff, that in Rosenthal, on the ground floor, there are large windows. Would you stay there or try to break a window out and escape that way?
After Virginia Tech, there have been some discussions about that because the shooter at Virginia Tech actually returned to rooms he had already been in and shot other people. So one theory now is that you do not lock down, you run for your life. My thinking is that's not a good policy, because if we've got 4,000 or 5,000 people on campus and they're all running for your life, you get out in the wide open, you have created a target-rich environment that it's hard for him to miss. You know, if you've got just a few people in a location, I think you're better off. And if you're locked in a room, the room's dark, you're out of sight of the windows, then you know they have no way of knowing whether there's anybody in there or not.
And so they, well, again, who knows what's on the minds of people like this, but do they just go for easier targets? In other words, if there's a locked room, they'll try the handle and then move on to an easier target? Is that a generalization?
That's what most of them have done.
Yeah.
Like there was the one where the two boys got in the woods and set off the fire alarm. And then as
To flush people out.
They came outside and they had a target-rich environment.
Those are young guys too, weren't
Yes,
they? In that one
I
case?
believe they were middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have 1 minute left. Any final thoughts or comments? I'll give each of you 33 seconds.
Well, I have to commend my victims and Constance on the makeup. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it made the whole drill a success.
I want to thank both of you for giving me this opportunity as a learning experience in acting and as a growth experience as a person, to know that this is a reality, to experience that reality, and to have a fear, but now preparedness afterwards. Thank you.
Now, Steve, if anybody wanted to contact you about this, I mean, from the general public, could they give you a call and you could talk to them about
Oh,
this?
absolutely, yes.
And give us a telephone number before we go.
The 534-3859.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. I'm Barry Craig. Please join us next time.
Thank you.